Hello, everyone. Hello. Hi, everybody that's up there. Hello. Hello. Hi. Good evening. Hi. Wow. Thank you so much for coming tonight. My name is Annalisa Diaz. I'm the Director of Artistic Partnerships and Innovation here at Baltimore Center Stage. And before we begin anything, I'm actually going to pass the mic to my friend Michael Nephew to start us with a blessing.
Taona, Sadiwa Totad, Taona, Ogawadeto, Hajiwajato, Watdo, Gavadako, Songwawi, Sukutanokta, Taniho, Nyokwan, the Gok Diok, Scattered Dwaye on Guatnagot, Tedwinonyo, Hadio Great Dage, Taona, the Nyokwan, the Gok Diok, Scattered Dwaye on Guatnagot, the Yatino, Etino Yote, Taona, the Nyokwan, the Gok Diok. Scattered dwaye on guat nigo, Dedwinonyo, Oneganos, da onet di nyok guat nigo diok. Scattered dwaye on guat nigo, Dedwinonyo, Hadio Giok Zage, da onet di nyok guat nigo diok. Scattered dwaye on guat nigo, Dedwinonyo, Hadio no guasage, da onet di nyok guat nigo diok. Scattered dwaye on guat nigo, Dedwinonyo, Hadio Jiyage, da Taniho di nyok guat nigo diok. Scattered dwaye on guat nigo, Dedwinonyo, Agisto das hat, Taniho di nyok guat nigo diok. Scattered dwaye on guat nigo, Dedwinonyo, Kahataye, Taniho di nyok guat nigo diok. Scattered dwaye on guat nigo, Dedwinonyo, ne wada, Taniho di nyok guat nigo diok. Scattered dwaye on guat nigo, Dedwinonyo, Hadiganyok dage, Taniho di nyok guat nigo diok. Scattered dwaye on guat nigo, Dedwinonyo, the Gajit Dage, Tony Hot did not guat nigo diok. Scattered dwaye on guat nigo, the Atinonyo, Johat go, Tony Hot did not guat nigo diok. Scattered dwaye on guat nigo, Dedwinonyo, the Yawetne, Tony Hot did not guat nigo diok. Scattered dwaye on guat nigo, the Atinonyo, Atisod, had they were not dajes, Tony Hot did not guat nigo diok. Scattered dwaye on guat nigo, they said Winonyo, said Waji. That qua got qua, then he hot did not guat nigo diok. Scattered dwaye on guat nigo, the Yatinonyo, Etiso, so at qua got qua. Then he hot did not guat nigo diok. Scattered dwaye on guat nigo, the Yatinonyo, Kajiso diok no, yo. Then he hot did not guat nigo diok. Scattered dwaye on guat nigo, Dedwinonyo, Kanyodayo, then he hot did not guat nigo diok. Scattered dwaye on guat nigo, the Yatinonyo, Ge niok di. Hadino, Gion, no, Tani Hot di Niok Guat Nigo Dio. Scattered dwaye on Guat Nigo, they said Winonyo. So could you knock the old Tani Hot di Niok Guat Nigo Dio. The one not get great ni, Haju jet don, what dog, I would that go. Ni hot ni what gate, hey up J, Tani Hot, Niok Guat Nigo Dio, Tani Hot. Those are what we call. It's often referred to as the Thanksgiving prayer, but it's also called the words that go before all else, and it's the Iroquois people will open up any meeting with. And what I said is, now that our minds are one, now that we have a good ear, it has become my duty to gather the words in front of the message he gave us, our Creator, so that it will be that way in our minds. And then the rest of it is like a repeating section where it says, now that our minds are one, and then I give thanks to the specific item, and then I say this, so that is that way on our way. And the words that I were talking about were, first we honor all the people, then we honor Mother Earth, and then we honor the waters, and then we honor the grasses, and then we honor the medicines, and then we honor the fruits, then we honor the strawberries, which for us is a very special one of the fruits. And then we honor the trees, and then we honored the maple, which is also a very special tree for us. Then we honored the animals, and we honored the birds, and we honored the life-giving foods, sometimes referred to as the three sisters, corn, beans, and squash. And then we honored the wind and the thunders. Then we honored the sun and the moon, and we honored the stars. Then we honored Handsome Lake, and then we honored the Creator. You also honored the four protectors. And then I said, so then I'm capable of gathering the words in front of the opening address there is much that I am learning. And so then let it be that way in our minds. That is all.
Thank you, Michael, for this offering. It's important that we start in a good way, so thank you for this. I'd like to offer a brief land acknowledgement on behalf of Baltimore Center Stage. Baltimore Center Stage acknowledges that the land beneath us, this place, this community, owes its vitality to generations who have come before. Some were brought forcibly to this land, some came here in search of ownership or simply a better life, and some have lived and stewarded this land for countless generations. In a spirit of making erased histories visible, we acknowledge that we are standing on the ancestral and occupied lands of the Piscataway Nation. The Susquehannock, Lenape, and Lumbee peoples have also cared for this land. These peoples are not relics of the past, but they continue to steward this land today with care, vitality, and tradition. Their relations are numerous throughout Turtle Island, and they are continuing to grow. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and future. Please take a moment to consider the many legacies of violence, displacement, migration, and settlement that bring us together here today. And please join us in uncovering please join us in uncovering such truths at any and all public events. Additionally, in a spirit of reconciliation, you can honor the Indigenous peoples of this land by donating to Native American Lifelines, visiting or donating to the Baltimore American Indian Center and Heritage Museum, or supporting local Indigenous artists. Now, on behalf of everyone at Baltimore Center Stage, I want to welcome you all to this Baltimore Butterfly session. By a show of hands, for how many of you is this the first time that you've been to Baltimore Center Stage? Wow, welcome. Thank you for coming. You're welcome here. And for those of you who have been here before, welcome back. Thank you for joining us again. A quick housekeeping note, we're still asking everyone to help us keep our community safe by keeping your masks on inside unless you're eating or drinking. And on that note, the bar is open. You can access the program if you haven't seen it yet by scanning the QR codes that should be on the tables around the space, or there's a giant QR code on the screen in the back. The Baltimore Butterfly Sessions is a civic dialogue series where we use art to catalyze conversation. So by that way, if you haven't met the people that are around you, I just want to give a quick second for you to say hello to somebody that is sitting next to you. Okay, wonderful. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. All right, so the theme for tonight's event is Uncovering Carlisle. At its peak, the United States government supported more than 365 Indian boarding schools across the country, where thousands of Native children were placed after having been forcibly removed from their families. The first and most well-known of the schools was the Carlisle Indian Industrial School, just under 2 hours away from Baltimore in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. Recently, U.S. Secretary of the Interior Deb Haaland announced that she'll lead a national investigation into the legacy of the residential system. The boarding school system was part of a genocidal U.S. government policy, and Carlisle specifically was known for its motto, "Kill the Indian, save the man." For those of us who are not Native, I encourage us to listen with open ears and hearts to what our Native relatives have to share with us this evening. The boarding school system is an especially painful part of our shared history and present, and I don't take it lightly when Carlisle descendants are willing to share about their experiences. What a gift before us to learn from their wisdom, from their artistry, and from their generosity of spirit. Tonight, you'll hear songs from the Carlisle Project, a new song cycle by Ronnie Pinoy, performed by Angela Gomez, Chelsea Zano, and accompanied by Tiffany Underwood Holmes. You'll hear a special reading from Michael Nephew, who you've already met, and you'll hear readings from pop cultural and historical texts, and a keynote by Jess McPherson of Native American Lifelines and the Circle Legacy Project. We're in for quite a treat this evening. And with no further, I will turn it over to Tiffany and Chelsea to get us started with a song called "You Were There."
Thank you.
buried secrets like my skin and blood beneath. They whisper stories of how the world began. They whisper stories of how the stars began to shine, how rivers flowed, how mountains rose. You were there. Coyotes howl in the desert night. Dry heat and dust, swirling sand. The thunder cracks across the sky, breathing rain, bringing life. You were there. At the dawning of the day, our grandmother sang of red earth turned to mud, of the great cataclysm. How could we have known? I watched the sun and moon collide, placed my ear to the ground, listened to the dreamer's dream, breathing in, breathing out. I was there. The earth is red and hard with buried secrets like my skin and blood beneath. I am here thinking the story into life, braiding the story of your life. Breathe it in, and the smoke will rise. I'll teach you the ceremony to remember who you are. You were there. You were there. Thank you.
Thank you, Tiffany and Chelsea. Now I'd like to invite Michael Nephew back up to the stage to share a piece he wrote, which is called They Told Us Not to Speak. Michael is an actor, playwright, and a theater tech. He is an enrolled member of the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians and is also Seneca and Cayuga descent. He has performed with a number of theater companies in the Washington, D.C. area, as well as in New York. A couple of his plays have had productions at New Native Theater, and a couple have had readings at the American Indian Community House's Native Theater Thursday play readings. He is also active in the local Native community. Thank you so much for being here, Michael.
So just a little, my great-grandfather went to Carlisle, as well as one of my great-uncles. And one of my grandfathers went to Hampton Institute, which was where they sent Native students before they sent them to Carlisle. And they told us not to speak our language. They said it was backwards, and we didn't need it anymore. They wrote in big letters on the board, English only, to remind us not to speak our language. Sometimes they would take us many miles away from our culture, hoping that we would lose our culture and traditions. They would chastise and punish us for speaking our language. They did this for decades, maybe even a century before the war to end all wars broke out. During that war, an officer overheard two of his soldiers speaking their native language. He thought, since he couldn't understand them, it was probably safe that the Germans wouldn't be able to understand them either. He came up with the idea of having them transmit messages in their native language. The Germans were breaking all the codes that they were using. This is how the code talkers came to be. When first used in the battle, the code talkers were transmitting messages to create a successful retreat without being cut off by the Germans. By the time the battle ended, they were transmitting messages of assault that resulted in a victory. The Choctaw language took the battle from a retreat to a victory. After that, other native languages were used. They were the only unbroken codes in what became known as World War I. Still back home, they were beating the children for speaking their languages. So successful were these codes that Hitler sent people over to learn the languages. With over 200 languages, and some of them not written, this was a daunting task. Not all the next generation learned their language. More were sent to boarding schools. Others, even at school locally, were punished for speaking their language. Then the government sent families to cities, creating more loss of culture and language. Some parents didn't want their children to go through what they went through, so they didn't teach their children their language. Also, because of the boarding schools, there were now mixed tribes in the families, and they spoke different languages. Still, some of the next generation learned the language, and yet still they were beaten or having their mouth washed out with soap or both. Then World War II broke out, and again they turned to the native languages to transmit the messages in code. They often created a code within their language, so even a speaker of the language would not understand the code created inside of their language. Others who were speakers would just speak in their original language when they were speaking on the radio, even though they weren't officially code talkers. We did not have words for all of the military machinery and weapons of war. New ways to describe these were created. For some code talkers, the enemy traveled in turtles, threw potatoes, and dropped eggs. That would be tanks, hand grenades, and bombs. One of the native languages did not have a word for a machine gun. They sat and they talked about how to describe it. One of them thought it sounded like the old pedal sewing machines because they made a clacking noise when you pedaled them. Since they had a word for sewing machine and a word for gun, they would talk about the enemy having a sewing machine gun. Again, these were the only codes that were not broken during the war. All in all, 33 languages were spoken in the wars. Still, back home, they were beating the children for speaking their language. Even after both wars, they were still being beaten, ridiculed, and punished for speaking their native languages. Some of the next generation grew up not even hearing the language spoken in their homes, only picking up some basic words like thank you, you're welcome, and hello. I know this is very true because I am of that generation. So the generation following me even had fewer speakers. One elder told me about having his mouth washed out with soap. My grandfather told me he would be beaten for speaking Cherokee. He would then say, but it wouldn't stop me. This is not just in the distant past. Just a few years ago, 2 Native girls were punished for speaking their original language. The teacher said she did it because they could have been talking bad about her. The teacher was that insecure that she feared what the students might be saying without even knowing what the students were saying. Just what was that teacher doing that made her think the students would be talking bad about her? Now they say our languages are endangered and might cease to exist. The languages that saved this country and the world. Many tribes are trying to save their languages. It's tough when there are few speakers. I once met 20% of the people who were fluent in their language. I met one person. They had 5 speakers. He knew it might die, but he wasn't going down without a fight. Him and the remaining speakers had created children's books so that the children could learn the language. And they were running classes for the adults. And they were recording themselves with all the words that they knew. They'd already started that before they got down to 5. So they had some of the other words still saved. Other tribes work with school systems so that the students can learn their language as their language requirement. Some tribes created immersion schools for the children as well as for adults. We are glad for those that continue to speak and for all the efforts that are being taken to ensure that the original language continue. Time will tell if we are successful in that fight. We are sad for those that stopped when they were told not to speak our languages. We are sad for those that did not pass it on, what they knew, for whatever reason. For whatever the reason was that they did not pass it on. We do not blame them. We blame those who told them not to speak our languages.
Thank you, Michael, for sharing these words with us. It's such an honor to have you here and to know you. Now this is the moment when my friends who I spoke to before, I'm going to invite our civic text readers up. These are volunteers that, don't worry, I already asked and they already gave consent. So I'd like to ask y'all to come up to this side of the stage. And with this group of civic texts, you'll hear a bit more context about the residential school system for those of you for whom this might be new. So Jeff, I think you're first.
Pretty tall. Good evening. Good evening. There we go. Hello up there. There we go. My name is Jeff Bazemore. I'm reading an excerpt from Secretary Deb Haaland's June 2021 secretarial memo, in which she directs the U.S. Department of the Interior to prepare a report detailing available historical records with an emphasis on burial sites relating to the Carlisle Indian Industrial School Program. It reads, beginning with the Indian Civilization Act of 1819, the United States enacted laws and implemented policies establishing and supporting Indian boarding schools across the nation. The purpose of Indian boarding schools was to culturally assimilate indigenous children by forcibly relocating them from their families and communities to distant residential facilities where their American Indian, Alaska Native, and Native Hawaiian identities, languages, and beliefs were to be forcibly suppressed. In most instances, indigenous parents could not visit their children at these schools. Many students endured routine injury and abuse. Some perished and were interred in unmarked graves. Survivors of these traumas of boarding school policies carried their memories into adulthood as they became the aunts and uncles, parents and grandparents to subsequent generations. Thank you.
Hi. My name is Stephen Gady, and I'm reading an excerpt from An Indigenous People's History of the United States by Roxanne Dunbar Ortiz. Sun Elk was the first child from the very traditional Taos Pueblo to attend the Carlisle Indian Industrial School, spending 7 years there, beginning in 1883. After a harsh re-entry into Taos society, he told his story. They told us that Indian ways were bad. They said that we must get civilized. I remember that word too. It means, quote, be like the white man. I'm willing to be like the white man, but I did not believe Indians' ways were wrong. But they kept teaching us for 7 years. And the books told how bad the Indians had been to the white men, burning their towns and killing their women and children. But I had seen white men do that to Indians. We all wore white man's clothes and ate white man's food and went to white man's churches and spoke white man's talk. And so after a while, we also began to say Indians were bad. We laughed at our own people and their blankets and cooking pots and sacred societies and dances.
Hi, I'm Jamie.
Hello, I'm Safra. I'm reading a quote from Secretary Deb Haaland giving an exhumation ceremony in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, where the Rosebud Sioux tribe of South Dakota exhumed 9 children who died at the Carlisle Indian Industrial School, reported by Jenna Kunz from Native News Online in July 2021.
I feel very strongly that we have to be thoughtful and loving in the way we go about this because we have to honor all of their legacies, Helen said. We have to remember that when we read the headlines about Canada finding 700 children in a grave, each one of those children had an identity. Each one of those children were loved by their family. I want to make sure that we are keeping that in mind as we move forward, that every single person is an individual and that every single person has a spirit and has their own families.
Despite the federal government's efforts to suppress and extinguish Indigenous peoples in the United States during the boarding school era, Holland said the policy failed. We have distinct cultures and languages and communities to this day, and so clearly the cultural genocide part didn't work because we're still here. Thank you.
Thank y'all. Can I get one more round of applause for our volunteer readers? Thanks, everyone. Before we move into another song from the Carlisle Project, I would like to invite Ronnie Pinoy up to the stage to tell us a little bit more about herself and the songs that we are hearing this evening.
Hi, OCO, good evening, everyone. My name is Ronnie Pinoy, she, hers, and I am Laguna Pueblo and Cherokee. My great-grandfather, Mark Pinoy, attended Carlisle Industrial School. He was put on a train from what is known as Laguna Pueblo in modern-day New Mexico. And before my father passed away very suddenly in 2016, it was a major part of his life and his spirit and his work was making sure that the legacy of what happened to Carlisle was not forgotten. In 2007, he spoke at the dedication ceremony at the Indian Cemetery at Carlisle. At the time that I was in college and, becoming the person I thought that I wanted to be at the time. And I think that for what I will say for me as a Carlisle descendant, and I imagine may be true of many others, is that this is not a moment in history, but it is something that is very much part of our lived day-to-day lives. It is part of how I was raised, even if I didn't see it at the time. So I now feel very called, and I do feel it as a calling, to make sure that the legacy is held, and moreover, to offer a gesture of healing to others who are reckoning with that history, and to make sure that that history stops being repeated, because it is already repeating itself, as I think many of us in this room know. So the Carlisle Project, which is a song cycle that I composed, is really looking to be a ceremonial offering of healing. While it does share the history of what happened, for those that don't know, what's more important to me is that it gives I hope, Indigenous people a moment to really reckon with what happened and really be able to find some peace and be able to move forward and find Indigenous futurities. So all the work that I do, I feel is in service, which is very much a value that my father and his father and my great-grandfather very much believed. So with all of that, I will say that the first song that you heard, You Were There, was sung by the fantastic Chelsea, thank you. Is sung from the perspective of Thought Woman, who is you could think of as a creation deity in Laguna Pueblo culture. And it is a song of reassurance to a descendant who is trying to find her way and feel connected to community, as I find that many young Indigenous folks are trying to understand where they belong, especially if they're mixed race like myself. And the next song that you're going to hear, Something Was Lost, I'll give a little bit of backstory. So one of the characters, sung by the fantastic Angela, is a Carlisle graduate and is sitting with the painful experience that she went through, and moreover, that not everyone who was in her class had the same experience because, as some of our civic texts shared, there was a brainwashing component to it. So in this duet, we see Thought Woman quietly, in an unseen way, providing reassurance and helping the Carlisle graduates move through a place of healing. And then I'm very excited for later on when we will be asking you to sing for the third song. So just get ready, all right? So clear your voices, it's gonna be great. But I just wanna give a huge thank you for Baltimore Center Stage for offering this space. It is so important to share these stories, and thank you so much.
Like leaves into the sky, thinking of school days, I'm still in shadow. Something was lost. Asked that my eagle become a crow. All I learned made me a stranger. Now with my clan, there are things they can't understand. Something was lost, not for Mary, my friend. She believed we had to change. She believed in their brand new world. Oh, for her, there was something gained. How can one place give and take away? We walked the same long halls, Mary grew, and I was diminished. Thought woman is sitting in her room, sitting as she has before. She's sitting there now. Thought woman thought of all her sisters. Together they created all of the universe. Diminished. I thought alone. I thought, yes, turn to stone. I had the stories to bring me back home. But I see for her, she had her own. And for us all, something was lost. But that's not all. The ceremony's not over. There's always more. There's an open door. There can always be more. Possibly. My Indian nature, the moaning wind, stirring memories like leaves into the sky. Thought woman sees, I'll watch them fly.
Thank you so much, Chelsea, Angela, Tiffany. Thank you. Now I would like to invite Jess McPherson up to the stage for tonight. Yes, claps for Jess. Thank you. Jess is an award-winning, multidisciplinary fine artist, master craftsperson, and social impact strategist, born and raised in York County, Pennsylvania. Yes, I'm going to heap praises on you. Don't give me this look.
All right. Keep going, keep going.
I'm going. Jess has worked professionally as an artist since 2003, and since then has served as gallery director for Community Arts Center York Arts, now Creative York. She is an independent teaching and showing artist/craftsperson, a cultural educator for Native American Lifeline's Urban Indian Health Program, a powwow vendor, a gallery consultant. She currently serves as, yes, she does a lot of things. She currently serves as finance director for Native American Lifelines, this region's Urban Indian Health Program, and serves as a volunteer and former board member of the Circle Legacy Center, a Native American cultural awareness and preservation organization based in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And she is here today on behalf of the Carlisle Indian School Project and the Circle Legacy Center, whose work centers on awareness, advocacy, and healing in Native communities. Jess is a Susquehanna Indian of Shawnee and Pennsylvania German descent. Jess,
Nice.
thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I just want to start by saying I'm really grateful to have worked alongside and been inspired by people like Michael and our elders, Mitchell and Karen and Vern, and all those that have come before us to do this work. I'll also say a special word of thanks to Jamie, our volunteer, right, Jamie? Who provided excellent care and joy for our children at Native American Lifelines when they were with us. I thought about how to untangle the ways that Carlisle impacts my life, because I'm not a descendant, and I, for a long time, could not really identify myself as an Indigenous person. I think that it's easy to say that the legacy of Carlisle reaches far and wide, right, across the continent and into so many homes. But those attitudes, the societal attitudes that create places like Carlisle, don't stop and start at that gate. They're all around us in the spaces we inhabit. My great-grandmother was 2 years old when Carlisle opened in 1879, and she lived in southern York County, close to where I live now, and my grandfathers were 16 and 11 by the time Carlisle closed in 1918. In the farms around them, in the neighboring farms, children from Carlisle were sent to work. Some of those children didn't go back. Those are hard things to reconcile that happen in our community, hard things that happen in the places that I call my homelands, that now sort of hold all of that danger and pain for people, and places that I very much love and places that I am made of. And so how do I reconcile that for myself as a Native person? When I think about my history and the way that it's sort of, our experiences sort of parallel many of the experiences of everyone across Indian country, I think about, by the time that my father was born in 1950, it was very popular for white men to dress up and be Indians. They called themselves the Improved Order of Red Men, as if they could take those things, punish us for doing them, and then make them their own, and tell us that this is the way we should have done it all along, how foolish we were for thousands and thousands of years of original teachings. So my family like many, I think, rural families, taught us not to talk about it, which is something that I think when I had a conversation with Ronnie sort of echoed in the experience of her grandfather. You know, it's just something that we don't talk about. It's not of value to be a Shawnee person, to be a Susquehanna Indian, to be an Indigenous person. It's not of value. It won't help you. It will only harm you. And so when I said earlier that for many years I wasn't able to identify that, it's because we don't talk about it. The work that I do now very much revolves around understanding and allowing people to heal themselves and find where they are in their own identities and their own path to understanding and their path to reconnecting to language or to ceremony or to song or just to ways of being. And so I think the things that we do in urban Indian health also are common experiences to folks from Carlisle, and in some ways they stem from that, in some ways they stem from those attitudes that are pervasive in the community, that we aren't good enough, that we no longer exist, right? That people who are not us are now the authority on our identities and how we are able to express those. And I think about those things, and I wonder, why would we talk about being Native people? Why would we talk about those things to our generations? How could we talk about it if that has been such a source of pain for us? How can we stand in front of you now and talk about that? When I think about Carlisle, I think very much about the way that our ceremonies and songs and languages and our love and our families were just sort of torn out of us. And I think about it in that symbolic way of cutting our hair, of changing our clothes, of changing our names. All of those things are just sort of ripped from who we are. In terms of understanding trauma and thinking about the ways that that impacts us as human beings, we think a lot about that now. We talk a lot about it now. And we can understand that when we're removed from our families, from our support systems, from our structures, from our ways of understanding, when our worldviews are upended, we know that it makes it very difficult for us to mend, to become whole, to complete that circle again. I think about these things a lot. I think about it in our day-to-day, even though what I do is write checks so people can get the health care that they need. I think about, why is it that they need this care, and why is it that we're here doing this? I think all of those things that happened to our ancestors, to our relatives who have been to Carlisle, being displaced from family and support systems, being exposed to extreme levels of violence, failing to meet the emotional needs of human beings, damaging our spiritual relationships, our senses of self-worth, irreparably damaging our ability to trust in some instances. And in some instances, we are the most resilient people, I think, that may exist. I think that all of those things, interrupt our ability to recognize and practice what healthy relationships, families, societal structures, what all of those things look like, healthy sexualities, healthy, senses of our own value in the world, and the things that we have to contribute. I just kind of want to sit with that for just a moment, but in a lot of ways, those things make us unable to express what it is that we need, unable to understand what it is that we need. And so when our ancestors return to their communities, or when we return to our communities, how do we relate to those people? How do they relate to us? How are we supposed to do any of this? I think that in order to heal any of those things, right, we have to take like a super long and hard and good and honest look at what is going on. We have to clean out that wound and see sort of just exactly what it is that we have to care for, how that manifests in each one of us. And it's absolutely different for each of us, but it's also so the same, so the same. In the midst of sort of all of that hurt, and knowing that the work that I do is healing, and that's its real intention, I believe firmly that, especially through the arts, we can create stronger people. We can be seen and see one another. And, so thank you, Ronnie, for doing this work, and Annalisa and everyone who has put this together today, and who works on this, alone at home in their room watching Netflix. Like, keep doing that. Keep doing it. I know that's what I'm doing. So, but how do we teach generations of people how to love themselves again, how to be families again, how to understand that just by existing, you are worth being loved and valued, and you shouldn't be afraid of that. How do we relearn our original ways of being, our languages and our songs, our ceremonies, our medicines, the respect and responsibility in reciprocity, that thing that we're responsible for, being the people. I'm so excited to have heard, Michael give the Ganoño every time I hear it, because that is the reminder of how we are supposed to be in the world and what our responsibility is to it and what we can receive from it, what gifts it can share with us, and the ways that we can care for one another in it. So, I think those are sort of the questions we have to ask ourselves, and hopefully as non-Native people, you ask yourselves those things. How can we reconnect and value one another? How do we hold space for one another and wherever we are in our healing? At whatever point on that journey, if we have any strength at all, we have to look beside us and behind us to see who it is that has to lean for a moment and offer our shoulder. I think that as we go forward and we keep doing that, we have to keep telling these stories and tell them in every way, in any way people will listen. And we have to tell them, here, we have to tell them as we tend the graves of the children at Carlisle. We have to tell them as we tour those grounds and we kick off our shoes with our aunties and laugh at how cold the water is in that creek, even though we're on the grounds there at Carlisle. We have to tell those stories as we hold the hands of our relatives who are coming to take their loved ones home from that cemetery, who are coming to see that place where their ancestors were harmed, where their relatives were hurt, and reconcile that for themselves. We have to be there for them and with them, and we have to share our successes and the wisdoms that we've gained and the things that we have seen and the perspective that we hold. We have to tell those stories, like we're doing here tonight. And I think that Michael once said this really poignant thing to me. So, Michael's really awesome, you guys. Michael said this really poignant thing to me, and it changed my entire perspective on Carlisle. The first time I went there, I was very hurt, and I felt very much like this cemetery and this place, it can't go away. People cannot forget this. We must force them to remember it. And Michael said, even though I hadn't expressed that to him, he said that, we've been doing this, and American Indian Society of Washington, D.C. has been tending those graves and having a memorial ceremony there every year since 1973-ish, 1972. Every single year. And Michael said that we will keep doing this until there aren't any more graves here to repatriate. We'll keep doing it until there aren't any more graves here. And I think that in that same way, we have to keep telling these stories until there aren't any more people that need to be healed from them. So I'm grateful that you have been here to listen and to think about these things and to consider your role in it and how you might help us heal. So thank you very much, Nyawa, and the way that my Seneca relatives have taught me to say it's a greeting, but I'll say it to you now, Nyawa Skeno. So thank you for being. Thank you.
Thank you, Jess. Thank you so much. It's an honor to be in community with you and to have you here with us tonight. And thank you so much for all the work that you're doing and for sharing it with us this evening. Now, everyone, we are at the time of the night where I'm going to invite our musicians up for a final song. This song is called Our History. And I think, Star is going to hand out a little lyric sheet. And as Ronnie said before, we invite you all to sing along. And thank you so much for coming tonight. I'm going to come up at the end to say a few final things, but thank you all so much for being here tonight. And while Star is handing out the lyric sheets, let's give one final round of applause for our wonderful musicians, Chelsea, Angela, and Tiffany, for our final song, Our History. Singing. Thank you. You sound so good. Yes, final round of applause, everybody, for our musicians. for our speakers, for Michael Nephew, for Jess McPherson, for Ronnie Pinoy, for all of our civic text readers who volunteered. Thank you so much for being here, all of you who came to listen. Thank you for singing, for witnessing these stories. I want to mention that the final Baltimore Butterfly session of the season will be right here on Monday, May 2nd, and it will feature a keynote by Dr. Lawrence Brown, who is the author of The Black Butterfly, for whose work we named this whole series. And we also now have a show called The Folks at Home by Baltimore's own R. Eric Thomas. It is running for the rest of this week in that theater right over there. Please check out our website at centerstage.org for more info about all of these upcoming events and other events that are happening here at BCS. We would love to have you all back very, very soon. You are welcome to hang out and stick around in the lobby for a little bit to chat with each other. And until you come back, we hope to see you again. And thank you for coming to tonight's Baltimore Butterfly session, Uncovering Carlisle.